My brother gave me the wrong date for Grandma's will reading. It was yesterday, he laughed. You snooze, you lose. What he didn't know was the lawyer had already called me privately. Grandma left everything to me. His smirk disappeared when he got the certified letter. It was yesterday, Ryan laughed when I called asking for the address. You snooze, you lose, little bro. I could hear our cousins chuckling in the background, their voices carrying that particular tone people use when they're enjoying someone else's misfortune. Classic Ryan, always one step ahead, always making sure I was one step behind. Guess you'll have to fight for scraps now, he added, his voice dripping with the smugness he'd been perfecting since we were children. Lawyer already read everything. I got the house, Mom got the savings. You get whatever's left over. A pause, a chuckle, which is nothing. He hung up before I could respond. I sat there in my apartment, staring at my phone, and I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel betrayal. I didn't even feel surprised. I felt patient. Because what Ryan didn't know, what nobody knew except me and one very careful lawyer, was that Grandma's attorney had called me privately 4 days before she even passed, had driven to my apartment, sat at my kitchen table and explained exactly what was about to happen. Grandma had updated her will, secretly, completely. Just her, me, and Mr. Harold Patterson in his office on a Tuesday afternoon, while Ryan was too busy closing a real estate deal to visit her in hospice. She'd changed everything, and she'd told me to wait. My grandmother, Eleanor Bennett, was the kind of woman who noticed things. She'd been a school teacher for 42 years before she retired. 8th grade English, the age when kids think they're smarter than everyone, but haven't yet learned to hide it. She used to say those years had given her a superpower, the ability to spot a lie before the liar even finished telling it. People reveal themselves in small moments, she'd tell me when I was young, sitting on her porch in the summers, watching the neighborhood go by. The big gestures are performances. It's the little things that tell you who someone really is. She was 87 when she got the diagnosis. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4, aggressive and unforgiving. The doctors at St. Michael's gave her 3 to 6 months. She made it 5. During those 5 months, I visited her every single day. I lived 40 minutes away, worked remotely as a software developer, and had built my schedule around her remaining time. I'd show up at 11 a.m., stay through lunch, read to her when she was too tired to talk, hold her hand when the pain medication made her drift. Sometimes we'd just sit in silence, watching the birds through her window, and that was enough. Ryan visited 4 times. He lived 12 minutes away, worked in commercial real estate, made good money, drove a BMW he liked to park in Grandma's driveway so the neighbors would see it. He'd breeze in for 20 minutes, kiss her cheek, check his phone the whole time, then leave with some excuse about a closing or a client dinner or a meeting he couldn't miss. I told myself it didn't matter. People grieve differently. People handle mortality differently. Maybe Ryan couldn't face watching her decline, but Grandma saw it differently. He's not avoiding me because it's hard, she said to me one afternoon, about 3 weeks before she died. Her voice was thin but clear, her eyes sharp despite the morphine. He's avoiding me because I'm not useful to him anymore. He's just waiting for me to die so he can take what he thinks he's owed. Grandma, don't defend him, Daniel. I know what I raised. I know what your mother raised. And I know what I've been watching these past few months. She gripped my hand with surprising strength. I need you to do something for me. I need you to trust me, even when it doesn't make sense. Can you do that? I promised I would. I didn't know yet what I was promising. The first sign that something was wrong came 2 months before Grandma died, when I noticed her antique jewelry starting to disappear. She had a collection of pieces inherited from her own mother, Victorian brooches, Art Deco earrings, a ruby pendant that had been in the family for 4 generations. She kept them in a wooden jewelry box on her dresser, the same dresser that had been in her bedroom since 1962. One Tuesday, I noticed the ruby pendant was gone. Grandma, where's the... I noticed, she said quietly. Don't say anything, just notice. The next week, a pair of pearl earrings disappeared, then a sapphire ring, then an emerald brooch that had belonged to my great-great-grandmother. Ryan blamed the hospice nurses. These people come in and out all day, he told our mother, loud enough for anyone to hear. We don't know anything about them. They probably pocket stuff and sell it online. The nurses, Maria Santos, who'd been doing hospice care for 23 years, and Patricia Reyes, who'd cared for Grandma since the beginning, said nothing, just did their jobs with quiet professionalism, while my brother accused them of theft. Grandma said nothing either, just watched, took notes in a small leather journal she kept in her nightstand. I found out later that she'd installed a hidden camera in her bedroom, a small one, disguised as a decorative clock, set up by her neighbor's grandson who worked in home security. It recorded everything, including Ryan, on 4 separate occasions, opening her jewelry box while she was asleep and slipping pieces into his pocket. She told me about it the week before she died. I wanted to be sure, she said. I wanted documentation. Mr. Patterson has copies of everything. Why didn't you confront him? Because confrontation lets people prepare their lies. I wanted the truth on record, and I wanted him to believe, right up until the end, that he was getting away with it. The second sign came when Ryan started pushing Grandma to sign over the deed to her house. It was a modest house, 3 bedrooms, built in 1954, on a quarter-acre lot in a neighborhood that had gentrified significantly over the past decade, worth maybe $340,000 $1,000 in the current market, which wasn't nothing, but wasn't exactly a fortune either. To Ryan, though, it represented something more. Control, first claim, physical proof that he was the favored child. He started bringing it up about 6 weeks before she passed. It would just simplify things, he'd say, sitting at her bedside with paperwork he'd had drawn up by some lawyer friend. Transfer of ownership before death avoids probate delays. You want us to be taken care of, right? This is the smart way to do it. Grandma was on oxygen by then, tired, fading, the kind of vulnerable that makes predators circle closer. I'll think about it, she'd tell him. Leave the papers. I'll look them over. She never signed, but she kept the papers, added them to the journal. Documentation of every attempt, every pressure tactic, every time Ryan pushed a pen into her weakening hand and told her to just get it done. He came 3 times last week, she told me one afternoon. More than he's visited in the past 2 months combined. Funny how his schedule cleared up when he wanted something. Mr. Baif, Harold Patterson, had been my grandmother's attorney for 31 years. He'd handled my grandfather's estate when he died in 2009, had done Grandma's original will back in 2015, and had become something close to a friend over the decades of legal and personal conversations. He was 73 years old, semi-retired, and operated out of a small office above a pharmacy in downtown Millbrook. Old school. The kind of lawyer who still kept paper files and hand-wrote notes and believed that some things mattered more than efficiency. 4 days before Grandma died, he came to my apartment. Your grandmother asked me to visit you directly, he said, sitting at my kitchen table with a leather briefcase that looked older than I was. She wanted to make sure we had this conversation privately, outside of any location where your brother might have access or oversight. Is something wrong? Your grandmother has updated her will, substantially. She asked me to witness and notarize the changes personally, which I did 2 weeks ago in her hospice room while she was lucid and clear-minded. He pulled out a folder. Inside was a document that would change everything. Under the new will, you are the sole beneficiary of Eleanor Bennett's estate. The house, the savings accounts, the investment portfolio, the antique collection, everything goes to you. Your brother Ryan is specifically excluded from any inheritance beyond a nominal bequest of $1, which is legally sufficient to demonstrate he was not overlooked by accident. I stared at the document, at the signatures, at the notary stamp. She also asked me to give you this. He handed me a sealed envelope with my name written on it in Grandma's handwriting, and she recorded a video statement explaining her reasoning, to be used in the event of any legal challenges. Why me? I mean, I know Ryan's been... I couldn't finish the sentence. Your grandmother was very specific in her reasoning, Mr. Patterson said carefully. She documented everything. The stolen jewelry, the pressure to sign over the house, the lies he told while she was dying. But more than that, she documented what you did. What I did? Every visit, Daniel. She kept a log. Every day you came, every hour you stayed, every time you held her hand or read to her, or just sat with her while she slept. 5 months of evidence that you were there when it mattered. My eyes were burning. I hadn't realized she'd been keeping track. She asked me to tell you something specific, Mr. Patterson continued. She said, tell Daniel to wait. Whatever Ryan does after I'm gone, whatever he says or claims or tries, just wait. The truth will come out when it's supposed to. I promised I would. 2 days later, Grandma passed away in her sleep. Maria Santos was with her. Ryan was at a client dinner. I was on my way, stuck in traffic, 13 minutes too late. Ryan moved fast after her death, faster than I expected. He organized the funeral, which sounds generous until you realize he used it as an opportunity to control the narrative. He chose a time that was difficult for me, 2:01 p.m. on a Wednesday, knowing I had a standing client call at 1:30 that I'd told him about weeks earlier. Then he told me the service started at 3 hours. I showed up an hour late. Walked in during the reception, everyone already eating, my brother greeting guests at the door like he owned the place. Running late as usual, he said when I arrived, loud enough for people to hear. Some things never change. I didn't argue, didn't explain, just waited. The will reading was scheduled for the following Thursday at Mr. Patterson's office. Ryan called me on Tuesday to confirm. It's at 10 a.m., he said. Patterson's office. You know where it is? I know where it is. What I didn't know, what I found out later, was that the reading had actually been scheduled for Monday. Ryan had attended it, along with our mother and our cousins Marcus and Jennifer. He'd sat in Mr. Patterson's office and been told that the will being read was outdated, that a newer document existed, that the estate disbursement would be handled separately, but he'd heard what he wanted to hear, tuned out the parts that didn't fit his narrative, walked out convinced he was getting the house, because that's what the old will said, and surely Grandma hadn't changed anything important. When I called him Thursday morning asking for the address, he laughed. It was yesterday. You snooze, you lose, little bro. I let him believe it, let him celebrate, let him brag to our cousins and measure rooms in Grandma's house and tell everyone at the next family dinner that he was inheriting everything he deserved. For 2 weeks, I waited, just like she asked me to. Then the certified letters arrived. Mr. Patterson sent them simultaneously to every member of the family. Me, Ryan, our mother Carol, our cousins Marcus and Jennifer, our Aunt Diane. Official copies of Eleanor Bennett's final will and testament, dated October 3rd, 3 weeks before her death. Properly witnessed witnessed by 2 hospice administrators and notarized by a licensed notary public. Accompanying the will was a cover letter explaining that this document superseded all previous versions and represented Mrs. Bennet's final wishes as expressed while she was of sound mind and clear judgment. The house went to me. The savings accounts, $127,000 across 3 banks, went to me. The investment portfolio, another $84,000 in mutual funds Grandma had been quietly growing for 30 years, went to me. The antique collection, including the jewelry that Ryan had stolen and that would need to be recovered, went to me. Her car, a 2018 Honda CR-V with 34,000 miles, her furniture, her books, her photo albums, her grandmother's china set, everything she had accumulated in 87 years of life, all of it, mine. Ryan's inheritance was listed on page 4 of the document in a section titled Specific Bequests. To my grandson Ryan Michael Bennett, I leave the sum of $1, 1.0. This nominal bequest serving as legal acknowledgement that he has not been overlooked or forgotten, but rather specifically excluded from my estate for reasons documented separately. And then there was the letter. Mr. Patterson was legally required to deliver it personally, per Grandma's instructions. A separate envelope, sealed, to be handed directly to Ryan in front of witnesses. I wasn't there when he opened it, but my cousin Jennifer was. She told me later what happened. Ryan had torn open the envelope expecting an explanation, an apology, something that would make this make sense, that would reassure him he was still the golden child, still the favorite, still the one who mattered. Instead, he found 6 words in Grandma's handwriting. I wasn't senile. I saw everything. Jennifer said his hands were shaking by the time he finished reading. Ryan called me 14 times that night. I didn't answer. He left voicemails that started angry and escalated to unhinged. He called me a manipulator, said I'd poisoned Grandma against him, said I'd been whispering lies in her ear while she was too confused to know what was real, said he would contest the will, that he'd hired a lawyer, that I wouldn't get away with this. I saved every single message, documentation, just like Grandma taught me. The next morning, Ryan's lawyer, a guy named Mitchell Drake, 43 years old, junior partner at a mid-size firm downtown, filed a formal challenge to the will. The grounds were predictable: undue influence, diminished capacity, improper execution. Mr. Patterson shut it all down within 72 hours. He invited Ryan, Mitchell Drake, and their entire legal team to his office for what he called an evidence presentation meeting. I wasn't there. Mr. Patterson said it would be better if I wasn't, but he recorded the whole thing with Ryan's knowledge. First, he presented the medical documentation. Letters from Dr. Rebecca Morrison, Grandma's primary physician for 19 years, confirming that Eleanor Bennett was mentally competent at the time the will was executed. Cognitive assessment results from October 1st showing full orientation, intact memory, and clear decision-making capacity. Notes from the hospice staff indicating she was alert and engaged during the period in question. Then he presented the witness statements. 2 hospice administrators who'd watched Grandma sign the will, Maria Santos, who'd been present during Mr. Patterson's visits and could testify to Grandma's clarity of mind, Patricia Reyes, who'd documented Grandma's verbal confirmation of her wishes on 3 separate occasions. Then he played the video. Grandma had recorded it on October 2nd, the day before the new will was signed. She sat in her hospice bed, oxygen tube in place, eyes clear and focused, speaking directly into the camera for 47 minutes. She explained everything: the jewelry thefts, dates, items, and hidden camera footage showing Ryan slipping pieces into his pockets, the pressure to sign over the house, copies of the documents he'd brought, timestamps of his visits, recordings of their conversations, the lies he'd told while she was dying, the stories he'd spread to other family members about her, confusion, his explanations for why he couldn't visit more often, his claims to Mr. Patterson that she'd verbally promised him the house. Ryan, she said, looking directly into the camera, if you're watching this, I want you to know that I loved you. I loved you from the moment you were born. You were my first grandchild, and I remember holding you in the hospital and thinking about all the wonderful things you would become. She paused, took a breath. But love doesn't mean I'm blind, and it doesn't mean I'm obligated to reward cruelty. You spent my final months trying to steal from me. You pushed me to sign away my home while I was on oxygen. You took your grandmother's jewelry and blamed innocent women for your theft. And through it all, you thought I was too old, too sick, too senile to notice. Another pause. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. Your brother spent those same months holding my hand, reading me poetry, sitting with me in silence when I was too tired to talk. He didn't ask for anything. He didn't expect anything. He was just there, because he loved me. She looked at the camera for a long moment. This isn't punishment, Ryan. This is consequence. There's a difference. Punishment is about making you suffer. Consequence is about matching outcomes to actions. You showed me who you are. Your brother showed me who he is, and I've made my decision accordingly. The video ended. The room was silent. Mr. Patterson told me later that Ryan watched the whole thing without moving, sat perfectly still in his chair, face gray, hands gripping the armrests. When it finished, Mitchell Drake turned to his client client and said very quietly, "I can't win this case." Ryan didn't respond, just stood up, walked out of the office, went to his car, and sat there for over an hour. Just sat there, staring at nothing. His formal withdrawal of the legal challenge was filed that afternoon. I moved into Grandma's house 3 weeks later. It needed some work. 87-year-old women don't always keep up with roof repairs and HVAC maintenance, but the bones were solid. Good neighborhood, good memories. I found her journal while I was going through her things, the leather notebook she'd kept by her bedside, filled with her neat teacher's handwriting. Every observation, every date, every detail she'd noticed and recorded because she knew no one would believe her otherwise. The last entry was dated 2 days before she died. Daniel came again today, stayed 4 hours, read me 3 chapters of Pride and Prejudice because he knows it's my favorite, didn't check his phone once. Ryan hasn't been here in 11 days. I made the right choice. I closed the journal, sat in her chair, and finally, for the first time since she'd passed, let myself cry. The jewelry was eventually recovered, most of it anyway. Ryan had pawned 2 pieces before the will reading, but Mr. Patterson tracked them down and I bought them back. The rest was found in Ryan's house during what he called a voluntary return that was actually anything but voluntary. His wife, Christine, had discovered the hidden stash in his closet and demanded to know where it came from. When she found out the truth, the thefts, the lies, the will, she moved out within the week. Their divorce was finalized 8 months later. Ryan's real estate business suffered too. Word got around in a small town like Millbrook. People heard about the inheritance dispute, about the video, about what he'd done to his dying grandmother. Clients started going elsewhere. Referrals dried up. Last I heard, he'd moved to Phoenix and was working for a property management company. Starting over, I guess, or running away, depending on how you look at it. Our mother still talks to him, which is her right. She and I have a complicated relationship now. She admits she didn't want to believe what Ryan was capable of, and I understand that, even if I can't completely forgive it. We have coffee every few weeks. We're working on it. Grandma's house is mine now. I kept most of her furniture, changed a few things, made it my own while honoring what she built. I still find traces of her everywhere. A note tucked into a book, a photo hidden in a drawer, a recipe card in her handwriting that I didn't know existed. She's everywhere. And that's exactly right. Sometimes people ask me if I feel bad about what happened to Ryan, if I feel guilty about the divorce, the business collapse, the public humiliation. I don't. Not because I'm cruel, but because I didn't do anything to him. I didn't expose him. I didn't spread stories. I didn't seek revenge. I just waited. Grandma did this. She watched. She documented. She prepared. She made her choice with clear eyes and a steady hand, knowing exactly what would happen when the truth came out. She spent 87 years learning how to read people, how to spot lies, how to see through performances to the truth underneath, and in the end, she used every bit of that wisdom to protect the grandson who deserved protecting and to ensure that the one who'd tried to rob her got exactly what he'd earned. $1.06. I wasn't senile. I saw everything. That's the thing about consequences. They don't require anyone else's involvement. You create them yourself through your own choices, your own actions, your own decisions about how to treat the people who love you. Ryan had decades to be a decent grandson. He chose differently, and Grandma made sure that choice had meaning.